Thanks for taking time out. You know what? You're the first person in the Voices chat room. So I wanna thank you for your time. I know you've got time on your hands at the moment. We had a little conversation offline in respect of you just being bored. You know, so I mean, talk about how you're handling the isolation, particularly on the day that I think they're going to announce we're going to be locked down for a further period of time.
Yeah, I think it's until the 7th of May now. So, you know, it's hard, isn't it? Because, you know, I retired from athletics a couple of years ago, and I set up my own little business, hair and beauty, in Birmingham. And this will be our 2nd year of running. So as you know, in business, you don't really make money straight away unless if, you know, it's the right kind of business, you know. And for us, we've been growing, and we've been growing really well. And then all of a sudden, bam, we had to close shop. So financially, it's tough. Do you know what I mean? You know, in a situation where I'm used to being busy on a daily basis, where now my daughter's no longer in school, my missus is a key worker, so I'm now in the house being a teacher, you know, being the influencer to my youngest daughter, and don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying it, but it's hard. And I just want to salute all the parents out there that work with their children on a daily basis, 24/7, because that's something that I've never experienced. And I got a lot of respect for it. Do you know what I mean? And all to the teachers as well, because teaching a 5-year-old is very hard. You know, but yeah, everyday life is really, really hard at the moment, you know, just for my mental health, you know, I'm so used to being a busy person, you know. I do a lot of work for the David Ross Education Trust, which is within the schools. And obviously, you know, that's been cancelled. So it's tough.
What have you been doing with your 5-year-old that maybe some of the other parents who are watching this could maybe learn from? What have you, because you're a former athlete, so what are you doing exercises? What are you doing? What is it, phonics or?
We get up in the morning and we do our exercises, but you know what the key thing about this life is all about is just going back to basics. You know, just the essentials around the house. You know, getting up in the morning, having a routine. You know, having breakfast. You know, doing a bit of maths, English, and then having some quality time. And I think that's one thing that's more valuable than anything in this current situation is time. That's something that we can't take away and we can't get back. You know, and I think for everybody that's at home, that's used to being at work, you know, that's been laid off, that's used to being the breadwinner, it's hard to adjust. So for me, as a person that likes to be out there and being very active, you know, for me, it's more of a situation of bringing it back home and teaching my little girl about family values. You know, just little things like making a bed, doing laundry, washing up, cleaning up after yourself, you know, tidying up the house, baking a cake, you know, watching a cartoon together, you know, just little things like that.
The basics. You talk about it being hard to adjust. As a former athlete, I know there are bigger things to be worried about other than sport, but obviously your perspective as a former athlete would be key on this. The postponement of the Olympics and just the disarray that caused, you know, I mean, again, COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic has caused widespread disarray. It's not just sport, and there are things far beyond sport that are far more important. But just in terms of the athletes, can you imagine ever going through anything like this yourself, having, you know, the biggest platform for sport, just 1 minute it was there, next minute it wasn't. You can understand why it isn't. Preparing for next year, the mental adjustment. Talk a bit about that from your point of view.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Because it's a 4-year plan. You know, as a former athlete, it was always a 4-year plan. You know, and I feel it for the athletes that are prepared mentally and physically for the games, and then to be told that it's no longer going to be this year. Some people may see it as a relief, more time for preparation. More people may see it as, that was my shot. I'm at the end of my career. You know, my body and mind can just about physically deal with another year, you know, and going forward, it's a situation where they're going to try and cram in a lot of major competitions in the 1 year. You know, the Olympics for me supposed to happen in an leap year. That's what makes it so special, you know. And to have it next year, I'm not going to say the magic's not going to be there, but it's going to feel weird to me because then the ongoing will only be 3 years preparation, if I'm right, if they take it back to the original timescale, which is, again, good for some and bad for others. So it's a 50-50 situation. I wouldn't like to personally be dealing with this kind of situation because in the latter part of my career, I competed in 2012 Olympics. And I was at the end of my, you know, my body couldn't take no more, you know. So it's just one of those situations where it's all down to where your head is, you know.
I mean, you got to feel for everybody involved, I guess, the athletes on an individual level, but the people in Japan that would have been preparing for this, because like you mentioned 2012, you know what it meant to us. For them, it's a huge blow. I mean, I know it's postponed till next year, but let's face it, that's going to be a very different Olympic Games to any we've experienced before, irrespective of what happens.
Financially as well, because as you know, the older you get as an athlete, the less financial support you get. So some athletes may be on their last year of their contract. I'm not sure how it all works. If you're on your last year and they don't renew it for next year, financially it's going to be very hard for you to go to the warm weather camps, you know, go to the relevant meetings, and get yourself in that situation where you need to be ready to compete. You know, obviously some of the top athletes won't have a problem with that, but it's not just top athletes that compete in the Olympic Games. I mean, if that makes any sense.
Talk about how much you're looking forward to the future of track and field. We've got Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, where you're from, coming up in 2022, which you know, you've already touched on, will be impacted by the offset of the Olympics next year, 2021. But talk about how much you're looking forward to that, just from a home perspective.
Yeah, for me, you know, my athletic career started in Birmingham, you know, from the streets of Birmingham to the tracks of Birmingham, you know. And for me to have such a big major championships in my hometown is very important. Not just for me, just for the next generation of athletes, you know, to get inspired and to actually see it. Because a lot of people just see it on TV, but to actually get the buzz in the air and the taste in the air, it's a different experience. And, you know, what made me get into athletics was watching Linford Christie compete, you know, Denise Lewis, Dwayne Ledejo, you know, watching these guys train down at Alexander Stadium made me get interested in athletics. And, you know, for the future of the sport, I think it's important that, you know, everyone embraces these major championships. You know, the Commonwealth Games for me was a highlight. My very first Commonwealth Games was in Manchester in 2002. And even though it was a bad experience, I learned so much from it, you know, and it helped me catapult myself into the situation where I was in 2004. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
The British Athletics have appointed a new CEO, someone whose knowledge of sport runs deep. Just if you had a few pointers, or if you had an audience with her, a conversation about some of the things that you'd like to see addressed in the sport, what would that look like? What would that shape up like?
Me personally, like, we can go deep and we can scrape on the top, you know, but I would, you know, sit down with her and say she needs to definitely bring in more former athletes, you know, as mentors, you know, coaches, or just to help develop the sport from their personal experience, because there's no better way from learning from experience in my eyes. You know, personal experiences on the track, personal experiences off the track. You know, it can help an athlete get so far in life. You know, with me coming up as a young sprinter, you know, I had a really good coach in Steve Platt. You know, but some of the advice that I was given, I believe it was the wrong advice. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, it's just what it is. You know, you got to choose your paths very carefully in track and field, because it's such a short career, and you got to make sure you make the right decisions at the right time. So, you know, with UKA, you know, I just think they need to just You know, no disrespect, but I think they need to respect some of their former athletes a little bit more and bring them in into certain things and not just the faces, you know, people that have actually achieved stuff and been places.
All right, my friend. Listen, it was a quick chat. Thanks for popping up in the chat room for the Voice newspaper. We're going to be putting these out over the next few weeks, having a quick chat with people who are like us, like myself, just at home.
Yeah.
You know, to break up your day and just kind of offer some insight. It's a strange time. There's a lot of people suffering. So if we can, you know, just bring about some light, then yeah, that's all we're trying to do at the moment. So thanks for your time, Mark. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, man. Look after yourself.